and start over and begin to fight and put voice for those who don't have the courage yet to use their voices. And I say that because as a victim of sexual assault and not knowing who it was, and let me backtrack, not knowing who it was that raped me also led me to discover that my rape kit had sat on a shelf for 21 years. So imagine a 13-year-old child growing up, not knowing what happened to her that night, not understanding what happened to her that night, not even understanding what life was presenting to her as a victim. That was my life. That was my plight. Getting to find out that my rape kit was on a shelf for 21 years was devastating. To think that the police, law enforcement, the justice system was literally failing me as I continued to grow up in a society that I believed that the police and that judges and lawyers cared about children, not just children, but any victim of any heinous crime, but especially rape. When I found out who my perpetrator was over 21 years later, I learned that I missed 2 statute of limitations, not 1, but 2. I missed one 5 years after the assault itself, and I missed one 10 years after my 18th birthday when the laws changed here in the state of Texas. That was heart-wrenching to discover that I couldn't get the justice that I felt I deserved. And also, I learned once my case was solved that my rapist was also a serial rapist, which means he committed other rapes against other victims. There were other victims. He could have been stopped. He could have been stopped. And that's the devastating part for me. Out of all of this, knowing that he could have been stopped, he could have been possibly prevented for harming somebody else's daughter, somebody else's granddaughter, somebody else's grandmother. But he continued. And when he was stopped, another unfortunate part that I learned was that my evidence was not tied to his evidence. So here I am, growing up in a society, not knowing who it was that raped me. I had to let the world know that there were kids on the shelf. There were lives hanging in limbo, in a balance. People were not able to fulfill their dreams because they know that dirty secret that happened to them. And our country, our states, our law enforcement agencies, our judges, our prosecutors were not up to par in protecting us. So as I began my fight, this journey started in 2005, and it was a long and tedious journey, and I'm still on this journey. Fast forward to Texas. Texas heard my cries. Texas heard my voice. And now we have the Lavinia Masters Act that went into effect September the 1st, 2019. It's a law that gives victims of sexual assault in the state of Texas a 50-year time frame after the DNA is processed. That's a major accomplishment. And then it also gives us a 90-day window. Once that DNA evidence is collected from the hospitals or from the survivor, it has to be processed. And if there's a backlog, we have to have a valid reason why. Keeping in mind, though, their clock doesn't start until that DNA evidence is processed. My point of all of that is that you are powerful as survivors of sexual violence. You have endured something that you can't even imagine you can endure. You survived it. And you survived for a reason. You survived for a purpose. And I believe that purpose is to not only help heal you, but to help heal the land. Help heal other victims of the same heinous crime. I don't believe that we're going to ever stop sexual violence. But I do believe that we can slow it down. I do believe that we can make an impact in the laws and how perpetrators are treated and how victims or survivors are cared for after the trauma. My prayer is that we learn to lift our voices. We lift our voices and we show the power that we have as survivors. No matter what people say, how they treat you, you are a warrior. You are not beating a dead horse. You have to share your story. You are are not pimping your pain because you share your story. You are helping somebody else as you help yourself. And I just wanted to come and share that with you. I want every survivor to be excited about being a survivor. I want every